Tonight on News 8's Chronicle. Homelessness is not always what it seems. And while some of it we can see,
because I'm 17,
more children in the Susquehanna Valley than you may realize don't have an address, a bed, or even an idea where they will spend the next night.
Oh, yeah.
We'll show you the challenges these children are up against and how you can help. News 8's Chronicle, Young and Homeless, starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to News 8's Chronicle. I'm Kim Lemon. The economy is improving, the stock market has set new highs, and the job market is the strongest it has been in years. But the recovery has left out a growing number of families and children struggling to get by. More children in Pennsylvania are being identified as homeless than ever before, and 1 in 5 lives in the Susquehanna Valley. Over the next hour, News 8's Matt Barcaro will introduce us to some of these children who just want a place to call home.
The stories you're about to hear are not often told.
Or they don't have a place to stay, they don't have an address.
In fact, even the advocates who want to help children experiencing homelessness sometimes have a hard time finding them.
It's me, Molly.
But children like Autumn and their families have given us intimate access to their lives and will share with us their highs and lows as they navigate their world without a home. Some children, like Megan, choose to be homeless, but she'll tell you why it was not a choice she made lightly and how she's living with it. Others, like Nikia, had no choice. She and her mother moved into a shelter after every other option they had unexpectedly fell through.
no!
They're finding that moving out, though, is not so easy. But we start with the Medina family and 6 children growing up under uncertain circumstances. They would not have planned to be spending their childhoods in search of a safe home, but they, like other children in their shoes, are learning to never take for granted a roof over their heads.
I'd say you succeeded.
Oh, bad guys.
This is what youth homelessness looks like these days, and these are the children living it. Deja Lee is the youngest of the Medina kids at 2 years old.
Look at the ball. He's going up and down.
Then there's JJ, his brother Nazir watching TV, Brianna, Marvin,
Give me a kiss.
and the oldest sister Eliza, who, not yet a teenager,
Give Nazir a kiss.
finds herself helping take care of a full house, though no one is quite sure how long they'll be in it. We met up with the Medinas a few weeks before Christmas. Most families then would be looking forward to the holiday, but forward is not a direction the Medina kids can easily see, not when so much of their childhoods has been spent stuck in a place like this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and this floor is kind of old.
8-year-old Nazir
You see, it cracks.
showed us the bedroom and bed he shares with his brothers. He said it pretty much looked like this when they moved in 3 months ago, and he doesn't like it.
At least we got a house, right? And I don't know.
What do you wish you had?
Wish I had a new house. That's what I wish.
The Medina's journey to get to this house on Beaver Street in Lancaster is the same winding path many homeless families with children seem to take. They had a house and lost it.
That's when we started falling apart.
With no place to go, they slept one night last summer outside an elementary school. The kids used this picnic table as a bed. Their mom stood beside it and never closed her eyes that night. That's when they knew something had to change. For a few months, they lived in this motel. Their mom even got a part-time job here. But motels for the long term are expensive, and they couldn't afford to stay. So in September, they moved into this house. It was in desperate need of repairs, but the Medinas were in desperate need of a place to settle down. Never mind the bathroom faucet that never shuts off, or the nails that poke out of the floors. They needed to get out of the eye of the storm for a moment and maybe, just maybe, start looking forward.
And Joanne, how many children do you have?
Becky Ortega-Leita comes to work every day hoping to start that forward process for children like the Medinas.
Hey, I have a new 7th grader returning to our area.
She's the student homeless liaison for the school district of Lancaster. Under federal law, every school district has at least one homeless liaison, and all liaisons in the Susquehanna Valley in every single school district have at least some homeless students to help.
These are all just case management folders of all the families that I've worked with this school year.
If this year is like last, over the course of the year, Becky will help almost 700 students, though the number has been going up every year.
At their age, they shouldn't have to worry about housing. They shouldn't have to worry about food, where their meals are coming from. And they do.
Last year, the State Department of Education identified more than 24,000 students experiencing homelessness in Pennsylvania. 1 in 5 of them lives in the Susquehanna Valley, and their struggles sometimes seem unbelievable.
I was taking them to a different motel, and he just looked at me. He was like, well, Miss Becky, where do I live today? Because in school, when you're 5 or 6, you're asked, what's your address? And that's something check. You should know by 6 or 7 years old, what's your address, what's your phone number? But he didn't know where he was going to be staying. He was concerned.
All of these shelves.
All of these shelves are supplies. Here's
So
our
volunteers
school
are doing what they
supplies,
can to give students without permanent housing what they need just to be prepared for the day.
And then we have the uniforms broken down as to boys and girls.
Without new donations, the shelves will likely be empty before the end of the school year. There's that much of a demand in just one school district for things like notebooks, shampoo, and pants.
These are luxury items to my families, but they're necessity items to us.
By being provided basic necessities, the students have one less thing to worry about. What's going on at home is enough.
These are traumatic experiences that our children are facing, and it does affect them forever.
Where's loading?
Back at the Medinas, oldest sister Eliza carries a burden her younger siblings do not.
I'm glad my little brothers don't understand what we're going through, because I feel bad for them myself. I don't know.
She is old enough to realize how precarious their stay at the rundown row home really is. But at 12 years old, she's just as stuck as the rest of them.
I don't know. This is not how we should live. You know what I mean? Like, not like this. But also, I feel like other people should understand that we're in a different situation from them. A lot of people like to criticize how other people live, but they never know what's going on. I don't know how it's going to get better, but I hope it does.
Eliza won't yet know if her situation will get better, but she knows it will change. When the mail came in December, instead of a stack of Christmas cards, her mom opened this, an eviction notice.
Coming up next on Chronicle, what happens next to the Medinas? And you'll meet other Susquehanna Valley children who have a place to stay, but it certainly is not home. When News 8's Chronicle Young and Homeless continues. Welcome back, everyone, to Chronicle News 8's series of special reports. We continue with tonight's topic, our look into the more than 5,000 children experiencing homelessness here in the Susquehanna Valley. And we pick up with the story of the 6 children in the Medina family. They just found out they're facing eviction from the only stable shelter they have had in months, and they're not prepared for what happens next. Here's News 8's Matt Barcaro.
So how'd you get that scar?
Looking back,
She drew all over it.
Eliza and her family may have preferred to get evicted. At least they could have been ready for it. Their removal from the house on Beaver Street in Lancaster was much more sudden. While the eviction order made its way through the courts, the city inspected the house and found it unfit for human habitation. It listed 32 code violations: rotting floors, missing gutters, a broken toilet, and a kitchen sink that electrically shocked anyone who used it. The Medina's only refuge was now condemned, and it was Christmas Eve. They had to pack up, get out, and move on. Where to go, though? They hadn't a clue.
No, this way, because there's no.
Homeless advocates say the Medina's next steps are common for families thrust out of their homes. In the dead of winter in January, any creative options the Medinas used before, like sleeping in a park, were out of the question. So they walked to the last place they wanted to go in hopes it might take them in. And fortunately for them, the homeless shelter had room.
I shoved this pencil myself.
Shelters are by no means easy living for a kid.
What do you think that is?
We saw that at shelter after shelter throughout the Susquehanna Valley.
How many pounds did she add?
Asia is one of the youngest at the Safe Harbor homeless shelter in Carlisle, which has been at or near capacity for the last 3 years. Matthew and his twin brother Lucas ended up staying at the shelter much longer than most. Their family didn't have the money to move out, and the wait list to get a housing voucher was long, so they made the shelter their home for 2 years. And then there's Autumn. At 5 years old,
Do you want to put your name on that paper?
she's still learning her numbers,
These are hard questions for a person in kindergarten.
how to color inside the lines,
This is easy.
and how to live homeless.
What it was is we got kicked out of our house because we couldn't pay rent. So we got kicked out and we had to go here. So we didn't have to live on the streets.
Even a 5-year-old knows how that feels.
Bad? Uh-huh. Hi, Dad.
Their home for now is room 206 at the shelter, and they're coming to find out personal space when you're homeless is a luxury.
It's a lot of people in a little space.
The three of them share the same bedroom and try to get privacy however they can.
It's like a little tent. So I can't look at this, and the light's not bothering me.
Autumn's parents told us it's been tough having to raise their daughter in a homeless shelter.
Love you.
Yay!
Up until August, they had a home and never expected to lose it.
She had her own room, she had a backyard, she had her own friends, and then to be uprooted from that to just kind of confined to here, I couldn't imagine going through that at her age.
I'll take your hairband.
Oh. Okay, here you go.
Okay, good.
So they're trying to make their stay here as normal as possible for Autumn
Good luck for you.
and count down the days until they can move out.
Takes a little while to get the hang of it.
But many times moving out is easier said than done. So 17-year-old Nikia stopped counting the days. The average stay at the Shalom House Women's Shelter in Harrisburg is 28 days. Nikia and her mom Trina have been here 3 times that long.
And I think there's one.
And if you thought Autumn's bedroom was cramped,
Yeah, this is the room.
Wow.
You have enough room to come in and turn around. That's it.
Nikia and Trina had to settle for a converted closet, the last space that was available.
And this is for both of you.
Yeah.
How do you fit?
But as of right now, both of us actually sleep on this bed because we needed more place to put stuff. So this is storage. So yeah.
You're at 17, you're sleeping
Yep.
with your mom.
Yeah.
They each brought in 2 bags of their things. That's the limit. Everything else is locked in this storage unit. But with little money coming in, Trina fell behind on payments and is now trying to save the rest of what they own from getting auctioned away. It's been that constant struggle to scrape by for almost a year now. Trina started suffering from a series of violent seizures. She lost 3 jobs in a row because of her health and dipped into her savings to make the rent until nothing was left.
She lost the job, and then the house went next, and it's just been downward spiral from there until we ended up here.
It's just that quick, like the blink of an eye, really. And it's all taken. It's all gone.
At one point, Trina considered sending Nikia to a relative's house. She would stay behind on the street. But that didn't happen. She lost her home. She couldn't lose her daughter.
I get frustrated because we're not in our own place. I've been on my own since I was about 20, and I've been a single mom. And so to never have been in this situation again before takes a lot. And it really hurts, and it's really frustrating.
The experience, as bad as it has been, has brought mother and daughter closer together. When you have so little, you come to appreciate what you do have. And they enjoy their time together outside the shelter, where no one knows their situation, and no one has to. But Nikia, like many children in shelters, still doesn't feel at home. She's never been able to truly settle in and doesn't expect to. Because there's one thought always in the back of her mind.
But not knowing like if we'll have to leave tomorrow. Because some people do, like they get a few day notice and they're like, you have to be out by this day. And so not knowing if that day is going to come, like where they're going to be like, okay, you have to be out now. And we still don't have a place to go to. I think that's the worst part.
Living that uncertainty is something a lot of children struggle with as they wait for a permanent place to stay.
We should go now.
The Medina kids are no exception. A few weeks into their stay at the shelter in February, they're not settling in either, to the point that 10-year-old Marvin told us he can't get one fear out of his mind either.
Getting kicked out. Yeah. If we get kicked out, then that's the worst part. Then we won't live there no more, and we live in the streets.
And so, Kim, at this point in the story, what stood out to me is that you have these kids, Nikia, who's 17, first-time homeless, Marvin, who's much younger and has been homeless for some time now, yet they all are having the same feelings pretty much at the same time in their experience. They're afraid that they're not sure when the next shoe will drop, and their situations really are quite precarious. And keep in mind that they're kids.
I know, as you watch it, you think to yourself, those are adult concerns. No child should have to live that way.
Sure, and the good news is, the silver lining is that we can help them. There are ways with your money, your time, donations that you can reach out to these kids, and we'll tell you more about that coming up.
All right, well, coming up on News 8's Chronicle, Marvin's fear that his family will get kicked out of the shelter inches closer to reality. And the Medinas are forced to make a decision that a majority of homeless families end up making when they have nowhere else to turn. Welcome back to News 8's Chronicle, our ongoing series that explores topics affecting life here in the Susquehanna Valley. Tonight we're looking into the growing number of children identified as homeless here in Pennsylvania. Homeless shelters are just one of the places that children and their families stay, but even that can be an unpredictable place to settle. News 8's Matt Barquero continues the story.
The last time we saw the Medina family in February, they were forced to leave their home when the city condemned it and had just found a room at the homeless shelter around the corner. It'll be their 7th temporary home in less than a year. But with many other families staying under the same roof, it was hardly home, and they discovered that adjusting to life in a shelter, living under someone else's rules, can be uncomfortable and unforgiving, especially for a rambunctious family of 7. A few weeks after they moved in, the arrangement just wasn't working, and the Medinas were asked to leave. With nowhere to live, again, the family stayed in 3 different houses of 3 different friends and family members 3 nights in a row. They hopped from place to place to get a few hours of warmth and security for the few hours they weren't too worried to sleep. Homeless advocates call that couch surfing, and the youngest Medina kids have been doing it most their lives. When we met up with them this month, they had moved into the children's aunt's house in Lancaster. They've stayed here before for a night or two when they overstayed their welcome at other homes, but they've been living here for a few weeks now. Marvin showed us how his family's sleeping space is getting smaller.
So who stays here?
My mom, my sister, my brother.
It again
my
is
brother.
not an ideal situation, but
other
through the
sister.
eyes of a 10-year-old, this is one of the best they've had, so they make the most of it.
Well, we put a lot of blankets like in the floor. My mom sleeps here on the floor, and my big sister sleeps in floor. Then me, I sleep here. My sister sleeps down there. My other sister sleeps down there. My other brother sleeps there. My other brother sleeps here.
That sounds crowded.
Yeah, but we all fit.
In this housing arrangement, the Medinas now join the vast majority of homeless children in Lancaster, nearly 70%, who live doubled up with other families. And it's not just an urban phenomenon. Even at the Cumberland Valley School District, widely seen as one of the most affluent in the Susquehanna Valley, about half of its homeless students live as guests in other people's homes.
Can you tell me the student's name?
Anna McPherson is the district's homeless liaison. At the beginning of the school year, she enrolled 63 homeless students, the most ever at CV.
Some people were surprised that we would have any homeless at all, and I'm just pretty sure that we have more even than what we've identified.
The students have seen their homes foreclosed upon and parents evicted. One student drove with his mom to escape domestic violence and enrolled at CV because that's where their car ran out of gas.
And it is very hard to watch, especially when they, they're just little kids. They don't have control over their situation like some luckier families.
And some don't have food, at least not enough to support a growing child. That's something teachers and counselors are trained to look for.
I've been told that they might see a child that's going to finish someone else's lunch. One student might be throwing something away and that child might say, well, I'll take it, I'll have it. And if you do that consistently, that's another clue that something's just not quite right.
Federal law requires schools to bus homeless students to and from school, even if their temporary home is outside district lines. It's designed to give the children some consistency in an otherwise volatile way of living.
And the Medina children we've been following in Lancaster told us it's stressful for them to go from house to house.
Oh, sure, because there's new rules everywhere they go, and they would be afraid to break those rules because most kids would think that if they do something wrong, they might get kicked out again.
I also get a sense that they lose a little bit of what it is like to be a kid. The Medinas told us they don't tell their friends where they're living, they don't invite their friends over, things that kids do.
Right, yeah, they don't have a birthday party like other kids do. They would more likely keep a lot of those secrets to themselves.
It's gotta be tough for them.
I can't even imagine. I think it's very tough on children.
The Medina kids, in their search for stability, can vouch for that. And if they didn't realize it earlier, even the younger siblings are starting to get frustrated with their situation.
I don't like moving around because it just drives me crazy.
By now, oldest brother Marvin and his siblings have started their days in one house only to end them in another too many times.
You have to pack a lot and then waste a lot of money for boxes and tape and stuff. And I don't like it because then when I get used to the house, I like to stay there. But when I won't like to stay there.
You don't want to keep moving around.
Yeah, just like stay in one spot.
And so while many children dream of becoming athletes or astronauts, the dreams of the Medina kids hover much closer to Earth.
What do you hope happens next for you and your family?
Well, I hope I have a job in the house and my family too. The only thing I care is my family. That's why.
And a house?
In a house, yeah, because we have to live in a house. Like, I don't want to live in the street.
As you have heard now several times, living on the street is a constant fear for many children without permanent homes. But some children choose to be homeless. When we come back, one high school student takes us along on her journey for a new home and why she's out on her own. Welcome back to Chronicle. Now, so far tonight, we've been sharing the stories of the Susquehanna Valley children who are homeless because of the poverty, poor health, or the decisions of their parents. But some homeless children are on their own. And as News 8's Matt Barcaro continues, some choose to be.
Bye, guys.
High school can be hard enough. Megan here knows that. But her senior year at William Penn High in York is getting increasingly more difficult.
Again.
by the day.
Huh? I didn't get my stuff. Henry didn't want me to go back in his house because his parents were like so upset.
Megan, who is 17, has been without a permanent address since New Year's Eve. That's when she says things got bad enough at home that she left.
I weighed the pros and cons, and I'm like, if I go back, I don't have to worry about whether I'll have a place to stay or not. But I know if I go back, I'll be unhappy. Those aren't emotions that I want to harbor towards my family.
So for the past 3 months, she's been living on her own. She first stayed with her boyfriend and his family, then with another friend, then back with her boyfriend until the night before we met her in February. She said his family just kicked her out, and she chose not to go back to her family's house.
I actually haven't been there in a few weeks. I don't think I can handle it right now. No, I don't think so.
At this point, Megan does not regret her decision to leave home and hopes eventually it will bring her the stability she's long been after.
And I know that I can get there, I just need a little help.
So at this point, looking back even a few months, choosing to leave home, you feel is the best decision you've made?
Yeah. Not the smartest, but for my emotional health, for my physical health, yeah.
Megan is part of a growing sector of homeless children and teens identified as unaccompanied youth. Last year's homeless assessment report to Congress showed Pennsylvania had the third biggest increase in the number of unaccompanied youth of any state.
I try not to go places without having my friends or somebody nearby.
Megan is learning that being an unaccompanied teenage girl is no walk in the park. Since becoming homeless, she hasn't slept well. Her grades have slipped. She's missed class, and she's constantly forced to be at the mercy of whoever will take her in.
I wonder if maybe the hardest part of going from house to house is always knowing that you're a guest.
For the most part, yeah. You become really self-conscious about a lot of things. Like, oh, am I taking a shower too long? Or am I eating too much food? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? And even though I always try to compensate, it's still on your mind. And you wonder what little thing it could be that you do that upsets someone and gets you kicked out.
Because that's the concern, that you're never quite sure how long you can stay.
Yeah.
Megan has found a way, though, to control her sometimes overwhelming emotions. She signed herself up for just about every music program York High has to offer. And on stage, she can finally find some peace.
Whenever I feel like there's something just kind of missing right here, or I'm on the verge of tears, when I sing or when I listen to music, when I just feel it, or even when I dance, it's gone, it's out.
So she tries to channel that peace when the days aren't so easy. It can be hard to find hope when all you're focused on is finding a safe place to sleep. But Megan hopes to graduate, get a job, live somewhere long enough to hang a picture on the wall, and to do it herself.
At 17, I imagine that's a lot to have to consider every night, every day.
Yeah. It can be. But if you just remember that you're gonna get through it, then you don't have to worry about it. And then when you finally get through it, you can let all those feelings go.
Coming up on Chronicle, what homeless advocates tell us surprises them about the resolve of homeless children enrolled in school. Also ahead, where are they now? You've now gotten to know several homeless children here in the Susquehanna Valley, whom News 8 has been profiling for months. Well, next we have an update on how each of them is doing. But first, we want to point out that there are organizations that work with children considering running away from home or who are at risk. One is a 24-hour hotline. Anyone considering running away or needing to be reunited with family can call the Runaway Hotline at 1-800-RUNAWAY or 1-800-786-2929.